Now we're gonna check my theory with the fuel filter, because on the ECU there was nothing explaining electrical faults, so there's also this function in InPower where you can check if the cylinders are running rough. And the car definitely misfires, I feel it, but the function says that there's no issues. And low fuel pressure can be a cause of misfire. So on these cars especially, where the fuel pressure regulator sits on the filter and the clogged filter combined, probably a recipe for disaster, so we'll just check it. Probably not going to do a difference, but at least then we can exclude that. If this doesn't make a difference, I'm going to wait for tomorrow, because then the smoke tester is supposed to come in. Usually changing the fuel filter, which lives right here, is a relatively quick thing to do. But in my situation, it always becomes a 1.5 hour, 2 hour ordeal, just because I have no lift. Yeah. This channel can easily be good motivation for everybody that doesn't have access to all the tools, because yeah, you can do everything on the floor. From a rust perspective, it is in immaculate condition for being 25 years old already. Everything can be fixed, but I would definitely prefer fixing a car that is mechanically not sound than a car that has tons of rust. So yeah, mint. This is still the original filter. This is riveted on at the front, so I always just bend it out of the way. It feels brutal, but I think that's how BMW designed it, because there's no other way to... Oh, I just found the air leak. This is crazy, Jesus Christ. It's completely separated. This tube goes all the way to the front, to the air intake boot. So this was a huge vacuum leak. Thank God I decided to check and change the fuel filter, because this definitely contributed to a lot of the rough running of the engine. Jesus Christ, no wonder it ran so poor. I'm also going to change these hose clamps, because they are old and really crusty. Unfortunately, I also don't have new fuel lines, so these will have to stay on there. But this car, as soon as I have access to like something where I can work from under the car, it will get a complete underbody strip and complete reseal. I want this car to stay brand new for the next 20 years. I'll definitely have to do a lot on rust prevention, because this car is 100% rust free from underneath. I am really happy with my purchase. I'm gonna be honest, really happy. Also, it was already leaking fuel. Yes, that's fuel. It was already leaking fuel. So, good thing we're doing this. I'm so happy I checked this, because the fuel pressure regulator definitely wasn't working, like not at all. There's no way it can work with this much of a vacuum leak, like completely crazy. Also, this filter is a BMW original filter. I'm going to try to find the production date. Here we have it, 30th of August in 2000. This was the original filter. 25-year-old fuel filter. No wonder this car ran like crap. Look at what came out of that filter. Fuel is not supposed to look like that. 240,000 kilometers on a 25-year-old filter with this going into the engine. There's black sediments in there. This thing was so clogged. And here I have some fresh vacuum hose that I'm gonna cut to size, and 3 new stainless steel clamps, because the old ones are garbage. Now this thing is ready to go back in. Now I'm really positive that this will transform how the car is running. You don't even understand how grateful I am that I noticed this with the fuel filter and didn't like check for issues at other places, because this was definitely one of the main issues with this car. Definitely. Gonna get it on the floor, prime the system, and hear the difference. I have just cycled the key around 10-15 times, so I think the system is definitely bled. And yeah, now I'm gonna try to start it. It's the first tries. It immediately runs better, but it still has misfires. Shit. But that was definitely a big issue with the car. Yeah. But good thing we changed that filter because it was definitely bad. Just gonna let the car idle for a bit and see how it behaves, and then resume tomorrow with the smoke tester, and hopefully we'll get this thing one step closer to stop misfiring. I just found another issue. I just voluntarily ripped off the hose that goes to the secondary air pump, and even when I blow into it or put my finger on it, nothing changes. I can't even feel vacuum. So yeah, there's definitely a vacuum leak under the manifold where this one goes to. So just to track things, I've blocked off this part with a screw, and I went around with the line to check, and it was completely detached because it ripped off. So we found another vacuum leak. In the future this is going to be really easy because, as I explained in the beginning of this episode, I bought a smoke tester. So I'm just going to take out the air box, shove it in there, and then do the smoke test, and then I'm going to see where there's air leaks and I can easily fix them. This is more like guesswork, but I'm ruling out things one by one, and we're slowly getting there. So I wanted to be 100% sure to not have any vacuum leaks on this car and any future project, so I bought a smoke leak detector. This was fairly expensive, but I think it will make itself paid in no time, because we can finally exclude if we have a vacuum leak or not. And I've already done the test yesterday, and miraculously the self-repaired intake boot actually held vacuum. But I've discovered a vacuum leak at the rear, a relatively large one, and a few smaller ones, specifically where both intake boots meet, and a few others. I no longer remember them 100%, but we'll redo the smoke test. I'm going to show you how I'm going to hook everything up. First, I'm going to take out the whole airbox and the mass airflow sensor. The smoke machine is just hooked up on the battery poles in the engine compartment, and then there's just a switch. You have to fill in mineral oil from the top, so you also need to buy that. I've already filled it up. Just a switch, and then we should start seeing smoke here relatively soon. It's already starting to come out. Also, the reason why I'm not doing this inside of the garage is because last time I did that, I've set off our house alarm because the smoke detector started to go nuts. So I'm just going to do that outside from now on. Gotta plug that in there. I'll probably need to give the car contact and then push the pedal to the floor, because otherwise the throttle body won't open and won't let any smoke through. Now smoke should relatively soon start to come out everywhere. It's already starting right here, very slowly. Once it comes out quickly out of here, out of the oil filler, I'm gonna close it. But as you can see, we have a huge vacuum leak right there from the rear, and yeah, we need to fix that. Also, it is leaking from here where we installed the new CCV system, because I think I didn't manage to clip it in fully, because that's really hard. And underneath there we can't do anything except take off the intake manifold and check everything. I bought the new intake tube, I bought some new intake manifold gaskets, and we're also going to take the chance to just clean the injectors one by one, and then we can be sure that there's no fuel related issue and that there's no vacuum related issue. Also, I've ordered 2 pairs of thermostats and 2 pairs of water pumps. The water pumps all came with the metal impeller, so that's not good, because these usually tear the plastic rotors off, so I won't install these until I have a metal upgraded. And the thermostats, I ordered them from Continental, but I got fake ware because the make that was written on the actual thermostat and not the packaging was Motorrad, so some no-name shit, but yeah, can't trust anyone, I guess, so I filed a complaint and I will be sending these back. Unfortunately, this doesn't fit with our get rid of the misfire theme of today's video, but this pulley is driving me nuts because it is rattling so loud, so I'll be changing it for a new one since I've got it lying around. Now the belt squeal and the rattle has pretty much completely disappeared. I'm not going to run it for long because we have no air filter right now. I also just noticed I completely forgot to check the individual coils. I just switched cylinder 5 and 6 to 2 and 1 and inversed because we had misfires on 5 and 6, but now they are on 1 and 2, and so I'm just gonna start the car and then take off the connector for the coil packs, and if it doesn't change how the engine runs, then the coil is definitely bad. So I just checked all 6 coils, they all work, because if the car is running and then I take off one coil and it starts to misfire heavily, then the coil works. If it doesn't change how the engine runs, then the coil is not working. So all 6 coils are working as they should, and now we're going to proceed with taking off the intake manifold and fixing every single vacuum leak. After that, there's only 2 possibilities: the camshaft sensors and the crankshaft sensor, because I have already changed the crankshaft sensor, it's just not been in a video yet, and the 2 camshaft sensors have been changed by the previous owner. These 2 are hella, and the crank sensor is also hella. I've already bought 3 brand new original cam and crank sensors, so we will switch these. If that changes how the engine runs, then that has definitely settled the debate if it is okay to use aftermarket sensors on these engines. So that's for a future episode. Now we're gonna fix every single vacuum leak this car has. I also just noticed we have a small friend. I'm quickly gonna rescue him. I have already taken off the intake manifold on an M52TU because, in case you didn't know, for M52TUs the M54 inlet manifolds are a definite upgrade because there's a huge difference to be had right there. I'm gonna post 2 pictures, which is the difference from the M52TU B25 manifold and the M54 B22 and B25 manifold. It is literally 2 mm longer and 1 mm higher. Also, there's not this oval part that blocks the flow. The inlet capacity of the M54 manifolds are definitely a lot higher, and even without a tune I instantly noticed a difference of at least 5 to 10 horsepower on my other E46, and yeah, if you're gonna chip the ECU, there's definitely a lot more difference to be had. Also, the M52TUs, the B28 and the B25 share the same manifold. If you put the B30 manifold on the B28, with a reprogrammation of the ECU, you can literally get to 330i power, so 40 horsepower, literally. It's crazy how much the M52TU's counterparts were restricted from the factory. But now we're gonna take everything off. First, we're gonna undo the electrical thing right here, which goes to all the individual injectors, which we're also gonna clean. Then I'm gonna take out all the air boots. These are reservoir right here, and then there's a few screws underneath. I think it was 3. We have to undo most of the lines, throttle body, electrical harness, and then we have to undo the CCV, and then we should actually be able to pull it out by just undoing the main nuts. So let's start this lengthy procedure. The trickiest part on all of this is the removal of the electrical harness for the injectors. There is no space, and the way I always do it, 2 screwdrivers, and then I just try and pry the retaining pins upwards. It's really difficult, but I'm sure you could manage if you take like 1 hour to do it, because that's usually the time it takes. So it's a lengthy procedure. Don't forget the connector for the Vanos right here, normal clip-on type. Just remove it. This CCV line blocks the passage for the electrical harness. Also the intake air temperature sensor right here. And now I should actually be able to remove it. Yes, it is kind of tricky, but you'll get the hang of it. Installation, fortunately, is a lot easier. Just make sure the clips are all in their correct position, and then you can just push it on. And now you should be able to just move the electrical harness out of the way, because out of sight, out of mind. Just joking, but this allows us to have extra space. Now I'm also going to remove all the acorns that are near the intake manifold, because these will inevitably drop into the intake ports once we take out the manifold, and I don't want that to happen, so it's better you vacuum them up now. Now we have 4 10mm to remove, here and 2 at the back. These hold in the fuel rail, and after that I'm just going to pull out the individual injectors. We're also going to clean out all 6 injectors. I'm going to show you my favorite method, which costs nothing. You don't need any fancy stuff for that, just a spare battery and a can of brake clean. These 6 individual injectors are just held in with these clips. Take a screwdriver, put it on there and just lever it out. Pay attention, these usually jump around everywhere, so don't get them in your eyes and don't lose them. I'm gonna lever it out, but there will be a lot of fuel exiting, so I'm gonna leave the room afterwards to let all the vapors escape. I've already opened my garage door. I don't want to poison myself to death, so just gonna let it evaporate and then I'm gonna be safe, hopefully. I see no other way to do this, if I'm being 100% honest, so now I'm just gonna let it evaporate. And now the fuel rail can also be put to the side. It's gonna be a bit trickier, and you need to remove the oil filler cap to move it around. Like so, and then you have space. Now I'm gonna take out the 6 injectors. I'm gonna make sure to put a bit of silicone grease on the bottom so that I don't damage the seal when uninstalling them. Now I'm just going to wiggle the injectors around a bit and then hopefully try to pull them out in one piece without damaging anything. Now that the whole fuel delivery system is out of the way, we can take out the rest of the air intake system. This one I now have new, but our ghetto repair actually held up relatively fine, so if you need to get by, just take electrical tape and really wrap it around tight, because as we saw with the air leak tester, there was no smoke coming through. So this is definitely a viable repair if you just need to get by another week or 2 before your new part comes by, so definitely thumbs up to that. I'm just gonna remove this pipe here, which is weird because I think this has been cut in the past, because this doesn't look stock to me, because usually it's a lot shorter, you know. They probably cut it like that, or like this, I don't know. We're gonna make it shorter when we reinstall everything. I'm gonna have to undo the one hose from the oil drain, and then we should actually be ready to take everything out, I guess. And this one right here, we also need to loosen. It's loose. Yeah, just one giant nut at the bottom. The one nut that's in the focus right there is the one I was referring to. I believe it is a size 16 if I have it right in mind. And now all the main nuts from the intake manifold, which are size 11 I believe. There's always like 1, 1, 2, 2, 1, 2, 2, 1, 1. These have never been off, I guarantee you, they are so tight. Now we should actually be ready to take everything out. Just gonna try. Everything seems somewhat loose, and there was still a bit of dirt in there, so that's no bueno. We're gonna have to clean the intake pores very thoroughly. Last time I've had an M54 apart, these pieces were not detachable. They are kind of like stuck in here. These are for the idle control valve, and they fell out. I've already pressed them back in, but I've never seen them being removable. Also, this manifold has been off because it's no longer got the original clamps. Also, whoever worked on this car before forgot to tighten this one, so there was definitely an air leak. Also, here at the rear, yeah, this is where the secondary air pump is attached to, and this is blanked off but not all the way, so it's losing air right here. And on the other end it is severely cracked. Also, it appears that the intake manifold has been glued all along this line. I have no idea why. Maybe some 200 kilogram individual leaned on it and broke it, but I have no idea what's happening right there, so that's really weird. One of the reasons why I know that this intake manifold has been taken off is because this part, this is usually attached to the side and it wasn't, so yeah, not good. This controls the secondary air pump. Since this was just dangling around, I no longer have screws for this. Thankfully, I still had two lying around from an old M54 that I've got it, but these thankfully fit. Also, this block off is no longer blocking anything, so we need to come up with an emergency solution. As you can see, it is severely split, so I'll probably get a hose that fits and just block it off with polyurethane glue or something like that. I guess that the failed blank and this old leaky vacuum part were the reason why we had a massive air leak at the rear, and the one under was probably this hose that wasn't attached properly. So once this is clamped down, this is blocked off again, we should actually no longer have any air leaks at all, which would be really nice. Luckily, I've still had one blank. It's used, it's starting to crack, but it was still sealing, so I'll just throw that on and then maybe order a new one and finagle around with it till I get it to seal. So we'll have to see how this holds up. I think it's gonna be fun. And now I'm just gonna get these one in. And now mustn't forget to reattach this hose, because otherwise we're gonna have a new vacuum leak, massive one. I've already cleaned the intake manifold, so now we just need to reinstall the CCV system correctly, check if there's any other places that need a bit of a touch-up, and then we should be able to just throw everything back together. Now I'm going to reinstall the suction jet, because if you remember, this part at the bottom was loose, so I'm just going to install it correctly this time, and then yeah, I can tighten the bottom one while being sure that it fits correctly. So clipped into place. This is now really tight. No air leaks. Nice. This is now on tightly. Now we just have to finish this really weird part at the bottom, which never wants to come on. Now I'm just gonna put that one hose that goes to the front back on. I've had issues with the old one, and the old one was a new one, but I had a second CCV ready, so I hope this one fits better. This one clips in because the last one wouldn't clip in all the way, so yeah, great. Now the intake manifold should be ready for reinstallation. And these are the parts that dropped out. That's really weird, because from the other M54 I've taken apart, these didn't come out, but thankfully I caught all of them, so I can just chuck them back in and off we go. And now some new manifold gaskets. Please excuse the Y-wing mess, but I'm also going to replace the two water hoses underneath of the manifold. I didn't actually know this until recently, but apparently that's a common place where they crack and leak. But I think this is only a problem that has come up during the last few years, because these cars are starting to get really old, and as a cause of that, the plastic becomes really brittle, especially the really heat exposed one, and this definitely fits the bill. I'm going to start with this one first. So we have to undo this zip tie which holds the knock sensors. I'm going to redo these because they have been melting here, so I need to zip tie them up better. Also, we have to start with this clip. So let's undo this together, like so. I'm also trying to make sure that I don't drizzle everything over the starter, because I can imagine that it would not really like that. So fortunately there wasn't too much running out. I think these are size 13s. It's out. As you can see, it's pretty evident why these are being changed. This one is the original one, and yeah, this is no longer flowing any good because it's completely rotten inside. Also, they brittle like crazy. I was really careful not to damage it, and it still broke right here. So yeah, if you have the intake manifold off or plan on doing so, I would definitely recommend changing these while you're already in there. I still had to fish out the part that broke off inside. I also just noticed another thing. The internal diameter was greatly reduced because of the sediments right here. As you can see, I can just scoop them out, and I have no idea what that is. It's probably residues because of mixed coolant. This could also be one of these leak stop products. Now we're going to do the bottom hose, which is also just a clip and 2 screws. They install fairly easy once you have enough grease on them or silicone spray. And now we're just going to throw them back in with the hardware. I'm now going to show you how I always clean injectors. This is fairly easy. Just need a 12-volt battery, 2 cables attached, and you need another person. Ideally, you all have gas masks and protective equipment. We're just going to do this one inside and the other one outside. We don't want to die. And yeah, you just have the other person. And then while one person presses on the brake cleaner, the second one clicks the injectors with the battery. Yeah. Stop. And this is one injector cleaned. It works relatively fast. It's not really a scientific method, but it works. So the car now runs a lot better. I've just reinstalled the air intake because this video is already kind of long. And now I'm going to start it and give you a quick listen. The misfires are gone, the codes for O2 values and lambda sensors are gone, the mass airflow sensor codes are gone, so we fixed every single air leak. I've since smoked off the entire intake again, and there was not a single part where smoke came out, so we have no air leaks anymore, and now this car is actually ready to go. Unfortunately, the rattling is still there. It's not like a misfire, but it's a rattle, and the symptoms that we get are kind of similar to bad crank sensor and cam sensor. So I've ordered these from BMW. They should come in the next few days. So next week's video we will get this car 100% sorted engine wise, and then we can finally drive it. When it's fully warmed up, it runs even better. Now the idle has dropped a bit, so it's starting to get temperature and it runs a lot better. It's running a lot better than before. Keep in mind that this audio clip was without insulation, so there's a lot less noise when everything is reinstalled. Also, the intake noises are not muffled because there's no filter, so the engine runs a lot smoother with everything installed, but I still have work to do, like I said. So thanks for watching and see you in the next one.